Welcome back to your Football Edge. Today I'm going to discuss the decisions of the Big Ten and Pac-12 conferences yesterday to cancel the 2020 football seasons. Honestly, when I first heard it, I said if I am one of the members of those two conferences, I damn well hope that the other three Power 5 conferences, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, also follow suit and cancel their seasons. Because if those three conferences do play football this fall, then in all honesty, it's going to impact long-term the Pac-12 and the Big Ten in terms of their lifeblood. And that lifeblood, of course, is recruiting. Because it's going to look like, whether it's true or not, that those conferences that play this fall are supportive of football, more supportive of football, but they're also more supportive of the players' rights and views. As many of you know, many of the players throughout the country and their parents were very vocal and very much in support of playing this fall, regardless of any apparent risk. The other thing that I questioned was just the timing. I just don't know why the Big Ten and the Pac-12 did not work to get more uniform support from all five Power 5 conferences, as well as try to build a consensus amongst the medical community of those of all five of the conferences. The other thing too is that the Big Ten was just stuck on starting the season September 5th. I just don't get that. I don't see why they weren't more open to starting later in September or even early in October. That additional time would allow for more data to be gleaned on the virus, along with overall medical trends. And another thing I thought was quite hypocritical is why the conferences all wanted to play 10 regular season conference games, when most of the conferences, of course, had 9 scheduled. So whether you play 9 or 8, I don't think it really matters, especially if you're concerned about safety of the players. You can always, of course, keep the conference championship. So the third thing that I was intrigued by was, and you have to discuss, of course, is risk. Okay, as we know, there's inherent risk in almost anything you do, whether it's driving to work or taking a jog in your neighborhood, or ironically enough, of course, playing major college football. The data is pretty clear that for 18 to 22-year-olds across the country that are healthy with no pre-existing conditions, there's very little risk of having serious long-term side effects or even death caused from COVID-19. Now, of course, there's always anomalies, there's always outliers, but from all reports, these universities have done a really good job of instituting the CDC protocols. Most programs are reporting that individual players have been administered tests several times. You also have great dietitians on these staffs, teams of doctors that make sure they're getting the right supplements, the right diet to keep their immunity as high as they can. Moreover, these different programs have the guidance of coaches, support staff, administrators, and of course team leaders to make sure that the players are doing their best to adhere to the protocols and the guidelines. The other thing that struck me was leadership. In all honesty, I think this pandemic has shown us that there's unfortunately a vacuum of leadership throughout the country at every level. And I think we saw that here as well with the NCAA and the Big Ten Conference. I have to think that if Jim Delaney had not retired a year ago, that we may not have had the same decision as we had yesterday. Or even if we did, it wouldn't have been on August 11th. And then NCAA President Mark Emmert has almost been silent through this. And that's kind of disturbing, because his office would seem to have a duty to not only try to get a uniform body when it comes to a uniform decision from these 5 major power conferences, but at least try to get some medical consensus from the experts from these 5 conferences. The other thing too, I want to mention is spring football. They've talked about spring football. Folks, that's not going to happen, okay? If you care about player safety, you can't put them through the rigors of 2 seasons in 1 calendar year. Moreover, any player that's draft eligible for the 2021 NFL Draft that could potentially go in the first 4 rounds is not going to come and play in the spring. Because if they're injured, They're not going to be able to work out the combine, pro days, and may not be even able to start their NFL regular season on time. So that's a no-go. And the last thing I thought about was the economic impact. I mean, this is obviously going to affect jobs. It's going to affect endowments. It's going to have an impact, of course, with lost bowl revenue, TV revenue, and of course that it will impact many different areas in college life, whether it's other sports, whether it's educational programs, or whether it's capital projects that are going to have to be shelved or paused. So there you go, kind of a long dissertation on how I feel. And it's not the most propitious outlook, but that is honestly my thoughts after yesterday. And I'm hopeful that football will be played this fall. It's just a shame it won't be by all 5 power conferences. Take care, and please stay safe.